Right, we had a fun little midweek diversion where earlier today, Tamanu Neomchong, better known as Knockout CP Freshmart, successfully defended his WBA Minimumweight Championship successfully over in Thailand, over in Nakhon Ratchasima, Thailand against Shin Ono, guy who was a highly ranked contender. Brought in a pretty tough fight too, fairly tough, especially in the early rounds. I actually wound up giving Shin Ono the first 2 rounds of this fight. They were fairly close rounds, particularly the first, but I thought Ono was actually starting to kind of get a little bit of leverage on knockout CP Freshmart just by virtue of a lot of the things that he was doing. He was kind of utilizing his height and reach advantage. He's 5'4", whereas CP is only 5'1", so he definitely had a pretty significant height advantage as well as a reach advantage that I can't necessarily verify because they don't list CP's reach on not on BoxRec, but Shin Ono does have a fairly long reach for being 5'4". He's got a 67-inch reach, so I mean he was utilizing that to pretty solid effect. Really wasn't until the third round where Knockout CP Freshmart started to come forward a bit more aggressively, with a bit more intent or just like overall more meanness to his shots, where he was managing to start to find a bit of a home for that right hand, especially, and start to really get a grasp back into the fight. He followed that up with a pretty solid fourth round, as well as a really good fifth round, where he was landing that right hand repeatedly. Pretty much primarily that right hand. He was leading with the right, or he was kind of feigning a jab, then throwing the right. He was going heavy with the right hand. In the past, I've kind of compared Knockout CP Freshmart's style to being almost like an orthodox version of Manny Pacquiao, and that was looking like it was very much that in very high effect. He was using the left hook a little bit here and there, but that was really more of like a setup, just to set up the proper leverage and to really just position Shin Ono in the exact spot that he wanted that right hand to land on him. Although in the fifth round he did almost drop Ono in the middle of the round with a clean left uppercut. Just caught him in the middle of a combination where they were kind of exchanging. Caught him with a nasty left uppercut, and Shin Ono staggered back. Looked like he was going to go down, but he managed to stay on his feet. And then in the sixth round, sixth and the seventh round were a little bit closer. It seemed like Ono was starting to get his to get things back together. He was starting to fight back a little bit better as well. He was utilizing that reach once again, and I think just a little bit of knockouts overall power and everything started to decrease just a tad, especially because Shin Ono, in spite of the fact that he was the taller fighter, was actually going to the body quite a bit. And even though he's not necessarily the biggest puncher, I think that actually paid dividends because he had actually been going to the body in the early rounds as well. And it just seemed like Ono was extremely well conditioned for this fight because he was throwing a lot of punches in those rounds. And even though CPs were the heavier shots, I think just the volume and the pace that Ono was starting to set in those middle rounds was starting to rear on CP a little bit as it got into the eighth, where I thought that Ono managed to get another round going his way. The ninth was a bit of a closer round. To me, that was a swing round. I wound up edging it to CP, but I very easily could have given it to Shin Ono as well. That was another round where Shin Ono's volume and just the fact that he was throwing a lot of combinations at knockout was really making it difficult for him. But knockouts overall, just physicality and power. In spite of the fact that he's the shorter guy, he was really the physical, stronger guy in the ring. He was really the physical boss in there, and he was making sure that he, even if he missed a punch, he would like almost kind of clinch and like almost jump on top of Shin Ono, almost like lean on him as though he was the bigger man in there. It's like almost like he was trying to kind of boss Ono around and basically like kind of just outstrength, outman him essentially. To basically, I guess, just show that yeah, even though I'm the shorter guy, I'm the stronger man in this ring. I'm the champion. You gotta really hit me with something nasty in order to take this from me. The 10th round was a round where I thought Shin Ono was actually dominating the round. I thought he was pretty much outboxing knockout and just landing a lot of shots, landing a lot of pot shots, landed a nice clean left hand at one point. But almost about, I think with about 15 or 20 seconds left in the midst of a combination that he was throwing, CP hit him with just a clean left hook and dropped Shin Ono hard, man. He managed to get up, And he actually finished the round pretty good. He landed more punches after he got dropped than CP did. But that was a round that could have very easily been scored 10-8 for knockout. But considering the fact that I thought that Shin Ono was winning the round pretty conclusively until that knockdown, I wound up scoring it a draw. I actually gave the 11th round to Shin Ono as well. I thought that he was still boxing pretty well. That his volume was still pretty good. His overall condition, like I said before, was just solid. The fact that he was still able to have a fairly good output, not necessarily like a super high output, not anything like Marcos Maidana or like Ryuichi Taguchi, a guy that I've mentioned a number of times before, world champ at 108 pounds. But still, like just the fact that he was keeping up a lot of the movement as well as still throwing pretty solid punches out there, even if he's not really a knockout artist. Only 3 knockouts and 19 wins. So, but he was definitely had his stamina up to par in a major way. So yeah, he took the 11th round, but the 12th, it seemed like that overall momentum that he took into the later rounds kind of went by the wayside, where CP was able to finish a little bit stronger, was able to kind of blunt and negate some of the things that Shin Ono was doing, and was able to land just some more heavy shots, particularly to the body, and kind of just make it so that Ono wasn't as likely to just come out and try and nail CP with something crazy. Oh yeah, in the 11th round, I did forget to mention that Ono did manage to nail CP with a pretty nasty right hook. High on the head, up on the temple, that actually kind of appeared to wobble CP just a little bit. This is the first time I've really seen CP get momentarily stunned. So I'm wondering if that may potentially play into the future. But all in all, I thought knockout CP Freshmart pretty conclusively won the fight. Let me see. I had it 7 rounds for knockout CP Freshmart with 4 rounds for Shin Ono and 1 round a draw. There was a couple of swing rounds, of course, that I gave Shin Ono. The judges actually saw it a little bit wider than I had it. They had it 119, 18, well, I mean, excuse me, 118, 109, 118, 110, and 117, 111 for a unanimous decision for knockout CP Freshmart. I think the 118, 110 and the 117, 111 scores are pretty fair. I think 118, 109 has been a little bit overly generous to knock out CP Freshmart. But I mean, at the same time, if anything, the rounds that knockout CP Freshmart won were pretty conclusive, clear rounds for him. The rounds that I thought that Shin Ono won were still kind of up in the air. Knockout CP Freshmart did quite a bit of good work in most of those rounds. Outside of maybe the second and the 11th in particular, I thought were definitely clear Shin Ono rounds. But just another solid win for the man with one of the nicest names in boxing. Definitely, definitely a fan favorite. Fun fighter to watch. 14-0 with 6 knockouts now. Of course, originally he was the only man to ever be unified Muay Thai champion of the 3 major championships that they have over there. And he's gonna continue to go on, and it'll be interesting to see who his next opponents might be. Top rated guys in the WBA are Ray Loreto at number 1 and Byron Rojas at number 2. Byron Rojas, of course, is the one that Knockout CP Freshman actually defeated in order to become the full champion after Rojas had pulled off the big upset of Hecky Butler way earlier in the year. And then, of course, the WBA had the unification. Knockout CP Freshmart was the regular champion at the time. Rojas was the super champion. And Freshmart managed to take the full championship back home with him. And then Ray Loreto is a guy that is pretty nasty puncher. A bit of a journeyman, generally speaking. He has quite a few losses on his ledger. I think he has about 12 or 13 losses. I always kind of compare him to like a very one of the like a light flyweight or a minimum weight strawweight Orlando Salido, or a Glenn Johnson, just a road warrior, a guy that got thrown in there tough in a lot of fights, especially as a young fighter, and has kind of a messed up looking record, but man, he dangerous. I mean, he managed to score just a nasty. Well, he got a draw against Kusanati Joe Yi, who at the time had been a 105-pound champion, was just coming off a tough loss, but a loss where he was winning up until he was stopped. And then he moved up to 108. Ray Loreto got a draw against him. They rematched, and Ray Loreto knocked him out. I believe it was in the 3rd round, just a nasty overhand right. So I mean, I think and since then Loretto has done pretty damn solidly. You know, he's definitely a very top, highly rated guy at both 105, 108 pounds. You know, he's a floater like that. You know, he pretty much gets in where he fits in. Just tries to take the best opportunities for the most money at whatever weight. Basically, you know, he's one of these guys that's just down to fight whenever, wherever, however. And I think if he gets a shot at CP, we could be in for, you know, potential fight of the year candidate. And I would definitely wouldn't put it past Loretto to do something amazing, do something shocking in there. Outside of that, of course, there's CPWay Konko, who is a guy that had a pretty close fight with Hecky Butler as well. Of course, Hecky Butler is at 108 pounds now, so that is likely not to happen. We also have Carlos Buitrago there for another former knockout CP Freshmart opponent. But otherwise, I mean, if we could maybe get some unifications going, I think that would be pretty solid too. Of course, previously Shin Ono had a pretty tough loss to Katsunari Takayama, who is now once again the WBO champion after winning it back earlier this. Actually, was it earlier this year or last year? I think it was New Year's last year, matter of fact. But you know, Takayama is once again a champion, and I think you know, him versus knockout CP Fishman would be a fantastic way to really kind of put things in order, just generally speaking, in the strawweight division. Right now, I think most people tend to rank Wenheng Manayoten, the WBC champion, as the top fighter in the division. I'd say it's definitely an argument between Manayoten and Jose Argumedo, the IBF champion, of course, because Argumedo is the previous man to have dethroned Katsunari Takayama in what was a pretty solid fight, but a performance where Argumedo was definitely on the upswing when it was stopped, and it was called a technical decision for Argumedo, and then and that was how he got the IBF title. Of course, you know, of course, after that, Takayama then rebounded in order to win the WBO. So Takayama versus knockout or Takayama versus Manayoten would be a solid way to kind of really be able to better rank, I think, the top fighters in the division. Because as of now, I would say Manayoten and Argumedo are really neck and neck for number one. Right after them is kind of neck and neck between CP and Takayama. I'm almost tempted to put Takayama a little bit higher just by virtue of the fact that he has more experience over top opposition. But at the same time, he also has the losses to those top guys. But CP, if he was to fight those same top guys, might have similar losses too. So that can't necessarily be underestimated in the whole swing of things. But Knockout CP Freshman is definitely a solid fighter to watch. Of course, I'm going to put the link for this fight in the description. I hope you guys check it out and enjoy it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.